Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Sam for a very special preview episode. We are going to be previewing Andor Season 2. We're going to be doing some predictions. We're going to be discussing the first season, the air dates, everything in between. It's a video I don't think we've ever done on the channel. I don't think I've ever previewed a TV series. I think I've done like trailer discussions with you on the Last of Us Season 1. I remember I've done trailer discussions on Andor. We spoke about like news stories before, but I don't think I've ever previewed a series. And the title isn't preview, but the more I've spoke to you about this, it's felt like it's heading that way. But this is also our official like predictions video, but we'll just be discussing Andor Season 2. And at the time of uploading, I don't know what day it is. I haven't scheduled this in with a date on the calendar yet. But at the time of recording, 2 years to the day, thank you, Sam, for reminding me, that it was Star Wars Celebration 2023, and we were all there together, me, you, Dave, Phil, many friends of the channel, Charlie, Ren, other Charlie that was there, so many great people there. I can't believe it was 2 years ago. It is absolutely flown by. Celebration Japan is very soon at the time of this video going up. I am no longer attending this year, but we've got friends of the channel going out there, and I hope that we'll have an absolutely wonderful time. But whilst I elongate this introduction, Sam, how are you doing today?
My hair's a lot shorter than it was at Star Wars Celebration. It used to be down to here when we were there. But no, it's weird to think about that. I can't believe it's that long ago. But also, we were so excited about Andor and stuff then, and we were like, "This is the best thing ever." And now it's so close to season 2, and I don't want it to end, which is sad. So I'm happy to be talking about it, but I'm like, it's very bittersweet in a way because this is one of the most successful TV series of the Disney era. Obviously, there wasn't really much before that, but in terms of live action, at least, anyway. So it's nice to talk about it, but I'm really intrigued about where it's going to go. Obviously, before it meets up with Rogue One. But no, I'm really good. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of have this discussion. And then when the episodes start coming out.
Absolutely. I mean, you're saying your hair short. I mean, I can tell you, after Celebration, I dropped 4.5 stone of weight. So that was something that went. I put a little bit back on, which is fine. I'll be able to lose it again soon. But changes.
We've all gone through changes since then, obviously.
When that Last of Us videos start, or if this is uploading next week, started, go to the season 1, and I look like death in one of the videos because I did an all-nighter watching it, and I think I was pale, had really bad eyes. Obviously, I've got different hairstyles somewhat now. Yeah, The Last of Us is like the tests. Celebration, it was a lovely time. As you said, like we got the first, I can't remember, me and Dave were in the main panel. Phil was in that panel because he got in as with disability access. Did you get into an overflow?
I was in Twin Sons. I was, yeah.
So you got to see the footage too then?
Yeah, I got to see the footage. I met some people in the queue and was just like, oh, hi. And then like, luckily, like had people to speak with. And that's like the great thing about something like that is that I knew no one apart from you guys. So even though we were split up to, meet people and be really enjoying ourselves, was great. So yeah, I was really lucky to get into one of those side panel rooms and to watch the footage and see everything that you guys were seeing. So yeah, I get a little bit sad that we're not in Japan, but also that would take a lot. And I think we were maybe thinking of saving ourselves for the next one, but we'll see about that.
I'm still predicting now, if it is 2027 announced and LA, Murmurs of New York, but 2027 LA, 50th anniversary of Star Wars, I'll be there. Fortunately, WrestleMania is not going to be in London next year, and it will be coming to London at some point, whether that's 2027 or 2028 now, I'm a bit nervous. So I'm hoping, because WrestleMania this year is the exact same time. I will be at a friend's watching WrestleMania at midnight here in the UK, and I would have friends in Japan go around the Celebration Hall. So thankfully, I'm going to get news updates by being awake. I don't know how much news we're going to get at Celebration this year. I know that Andor's confirmed to have a panel. My personal bet is they'll show the first 3 episodes for the people in attendance. which I think would be more than fair to show them. You don't show them 2 episodes out of a story arc, show them all 3, please. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to with Celebration shit, and of course they will announce the next one, or should announce the next one. I know that a couple of names have dropped out, and I know the booking of panels is the worst I've ever seen it. Picture a concert where you go on and you press mine, but you can't book one for your friend or family or sibling or anyone else. You can only get it for yourself, and they all went straight away. So I've had a lot of friends scorned by the panels this year. At least when we did it, we were in ballots, and we just sort of did a group of 4 or 5 of us that you were able to then have, times as much chance to win. So yeah, I felt like it's turned into a Star Celebration preview. Everyone going, have a lovely time. We're jealous.
Yeah,
Send us letters. But that being said, we are talking Andor season 2, and that was the first time footage was shown. They were still filming it at that point 2 years ago. The series had been out for a few months. Me and you went to, at the same celebration, an amazing ILM panel, which we absolutely loves. I guess where I'm going with this and where we kickstart this discussion, even before I plug the social medias, is 2 years on, or 2.5 years on, your thoughts on Andor season 1 summed up politely.
Well, I mean, I said right before this, I've not watched it since it aired, and I have done that on purpose because I really didn't want to overly watch something like that because I had such a wonderful time. I mean, what I would describe that series was fun, intense, thrilling, and unexpected. I think everyone was. I say everyone. I think a lot of people were very surprised with the quality and how good the entertainment was for Andor. I think when I've said it before, I'll say it again. When it was announced, I was like, do I really care? Does anyone really care? And I'm really glad that I was proven wrong. I wasn't going to be mouthing off being like, oh, this is probably going to be awful or all of this. I was going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And it turned out to be a fantastic show. And I think that's why I was really excited at the prospect of potentially getting at least 2 more seasons. So the fact that we've only got 1, I'm thankful for, by the way. Some series such as The Acolyte are not very lucky to get that second series. So I'm very happy that we've got this. And you never know, between now and the second series dropping, I may watch the first series again. George, you said it yourself, and I'm sure you'll bring it up that because obviously it's a week-to-week show for the first series, but you've been able to kind of watch it in more of a binging session. So I'd be interested to kind of see what it's like with that. And to be fair, it's been like that with the other Star Wars shows where I've not actually gone back and watched the full series again. So it's probably interesting to watch them all in that format. But I do think we missed something by not having a week to week. I think it's a great thing that we've had that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, going back to season 1, I remember being very lucky to be at the UK multimedia for it. It's the first, I guess, because the first ever time of any form of Star Wars accreditation for anything, and there were so many friends there, friends within like Joy Builders, friends from like cosplay groups, friends from press side of things. That was like. It felt like a premiere. It wasn't a premiere, but it felt like a premiere. There was cool photo warps. And you got the first 2 episodes. I was like, oh, this is good. And I'm the same as you. I wasn't hyped when they announced Andor. It was the spin-off of the spin-off. It's a character that dies. And one thing I always remember, and it will be on the very, very, very first Rogue One review on this channel all those years ago, I was gutted that not that they killed Andor in Rogue One, but in the entirety of the press for that film, Diego Luna was the really, like, I don't want to say fun one. That's like disrespectful to the others, but he was carrying. Yeah, he was like carrying the press tour with like natural charisma. He was amazing in every talk show. He was having so much fun. And I remember watching the film. I was like, oh, he was a bit serious. He's the assassin, but he turns around, blah blah blah. And I remember being a little bit disappointed by the character of Cassian. So when they announced the series, I was like, okay, like I really like Diego Luna, and I watched those first 3 and obviously, let's be honest, like the cast they brought on board, you're having, Genevieve Riley, Britannia's Mon Mothma, great. We had Stellan Skarsgård joining Star Wars, playing this unknown character. I got lucky to watch Rogue One at the Empire event, to which Genevieve and Diego both went to, so I was starting to get on the hype train. And then it wouldn't have even been episode 6, but even the week to week, I was like, this is good. And I was watching it on my lunch breaks at work, because Star Wars spoilers online. And I think it's when it got to One Way Out story arc. I'd seen this collective week by week, like, this show's really good, this show's really good. And it was starting to start those next levels of discussion online there. And it's almost, you get it on Twitter these days, like, someone nowadays would be like, when are we going to have a discussion about this actually being like GOAT tier or something? And I think Andor started getting that in the prison arc. And I remember at that point thinking, this is starting to go from being good Star Wars to like prestige drama now. That's how I remember it. And by the time it gets to the finale, I loved it. But I only ever watched every episode once, and I hadn't seen them at all until the weekend just gone of us recording this. So just under 3 weeks, the weekend before season 2 starts. I've been to 5 episodes in 2 days. No, 3 days. But it was like Friday night, Saturday evening, Sunday morning. So, it was not much of a gap. And rewatching season 1 back, I'm willing to make this claim on a stream. I think it's one of the best seasons of a TV show I've ever seen. I'm not comparing it to Star Wars, Marvel, etc. I'm comparing it to the prestige dramas. I won't name them because someone will scream somewhere, but this ended up being nominated for Best Drama at the Emmys, which is massive for Star Wars. To get that off this show, great. And the rewatch, it was quite overwhelming at times, particularly the One Way Out, particularly the actual finale. And I don't think I'd have to go back to the video, but at the time, the finale is one of the best written episodes. It doesn't just tie one story arc together. It brings in 4 story arcs. It brings in like a dozen different characters, and everyone comes together for this like seismic season finale that really then kickstarts the everything. So elongated way of saying I think season 1's very good, but rewatch it. I'm excited for you to get the chance to rewatch it, because doing it in what did I do? I did episodes 1 to 3. No, I did episodes 1 through to 5 on night 1. Then I was like, oh, I get to the heist tomorrow. Great. Then I did 6, and then I did straight into 7's that middle ground. It's post 6 before prison. Yeah. Then I did I was like, okay, I'll save the prison heist for tomorrow morning. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to save the prison heist because I'm here now. And then I obviously did 11 and 12 together, and as a binge format, it's great. And I've got a friend actually watching Andor for the very, very first time. I've been trying to get him to watch it for years. And he messaged me last night saying, I've watched the first 3 episodes of Andor. It's very good. This is somebody that isn't necessarily a Star Wars fan. This is a TV fan that watches all of those types of shows. So I'm delighted. And I text him like, episodes 4 to 6, watch them together. 7, do when you want. 8 to 10 together. 11, 12 together. Then you're ready for season 2. So I think it's a show that a lot of non-Star Wars fans have watched in recent years. I remember at the time the discussion being Andor is, quote, one of the least viewed Disney Star Wars series, which I think is understandable. It's not lightsabers. It's not really child-friendly. It's something different. And I hate certain people online who have not weaponized the show, but any single time there's ever a piece of Star Wars news, their reply is like, it's not Andor though, is it? And I'm sat there like, and this is a testament to the quality of the series. And actually, Tony Gilroy spoke about this in an interview today. He's basically been like, shut the fuck up. He's like, if we didn't have the Mandalorian, we wouldn't have Andor. If that didn't work, mine couldn't be made. And he was basically shutting down all this division. And the thing I'll say, and I'll let you speak in a sec. Sorry, I've gone for so long. It's like a monologue. Not as worthy as an Andor one, but there is nothing wrong with Star Wars having different genres or variety. Not everything needs to be Andor. Like I see, whenever the Luthen speech comes up, about from episode 10 about the sunset he'll never see. The sunrise he'll never see, sorry. And someone's like, every Star Wars show should be written like this. I'm like, there's a discussion to be had about the quality of writing on mass media projects such as Star Wars, yes. But I don't need every Star Wars show to be Andor. I love Andor. and there's a place for it. But you know what? There's a place for Skeleton Crew, which we've all adored. An Andor monologue wouldn't work in Skeleton Crew because it's made for children. Andor's made for adults. The Mandalorian, which is a weekly adventure to adventure, works the way it needs to be. It's a bit lighter. It's got heavy moments. It's got light moments. It's an adventure. Kids like it. Adults like it. Not every. It's like going into a burger place, right? Let's say you're going to Five Guys here in the UK. You go up to the till, you order your burger, and there's someone next to you goes, "Well, it's not exactly caviar, is it?" And you'd be sat there like, "But I didn't ask for caviar. I've gone to Five Guys, know what I'm going to get." Maybe that's a terrible comparison, but I don't know, man. What do you think of the sort of the? It's not even the usual online accounts of like certain news channels. It's actually just normal people.
I mean, we're in a period of time where, you know, the idea of what Star Wars can be has actively shifted. You know, everything especially pre-COVID, was mostly, you know, these are the Star Wars films, and this is the additional Star Wars media, and you can either choose to ignore that Star Wars media, such as the video games, the animations, the expanded universe, all of that stuff, and that's that. Whereas there's now these additional TV series, which, you know, are really kind of catering to different audiences, and this is a thing that's not trying to cater to one type of fan or TV viewer. It's really taking a concept and going, who is the audience for this? The reason why a show gets greenlit and why all the work goes into it is because they've looked into what that story is going to be, who is it suited for, is it worth it? And clearly, with all the TV series that they've produced, they've seen a market or a window where they think that could work, whether or not it's purely from an audience perspective or from a story perspective, or both. So, you know, we're very lucky that all of them have been produced. We've managed to see some, you know, different types of Star Wars story show, which, you know, has, you know, been successful to varying degrees. You know, and sometimes it is good to know what does work and what doesn't. I don't believe that any show purely just hasn't worked. I think the only one that's really kind of maybe missed the mark or maybe gone a certain direction was Book of Boba Fett. Really it is to me the weakest. But I say that in saying that I still enjoyed the show, and I still think it was a well done show overall, but definitely could have been improved upon. I think so much love and hype for The Mandalorian and how that the success of that put a lot of pressure on any piece of media that came out after it. I think that's why something like Andor, when it actually does well, because people came in with more lower expectations for it, that's why a lot of people celebrate it. Whereas something like The Acolyte, which almost immediately had people having a go at it, it's just not given the chance that it deserved. And it actually was a very interesting story. And I'm frustrated that we don't get to continue that story with a second series. But still very thankful that we got it, because that was a different type of show. So yeah, with Andor, I'm really glad that we've had this opportunity to actually see more of this character and actually, you know, be in this era where we've only seen a lot of it through animation. I know I've not seen Rebels fully, but I've seen episodes, and it's nice to kind of get that kind of bridge between episodes 3 and 4. You know, Rogue One's at the very end of that. We have Solo, which is just one kind of moment within that. So it's been great to kind of see those arcs progress through season 1, and now for season 2, knowing that there are going to be kind of definitive time skips between the selection of episodes that we're going to have is a really interesting thing. Again, I'm gutted that we don't have a third season, so we could kind of split this in half and get more, because I really love the story, the characters. Having a show where I know me and you said, like, at the beginning, to have something like political intrigue, you know, this for me is the closest type of show to something like a Game of Thrones, where we are following multiple storylines across, you know, multiple locations, characters, and it's not purely action, and it's not purely just sitting in a room talking. There's a nice balance of everything. And that's what, to me, makes for great prestige television. So, and that's why I'll say this is the best Star Wars TV show for me. The Mandalorian's right up there, but I do think Andor has just hit like none of the others have. Hopefully, there's a lot of pressure for season 2, but I with Tony Gilroy, who's really kind of, really maintain what the essence of this era and these characters. I have a lot of trust in that. And from what we've seen, at least anyway, it feels like it is going to be a more heightened continuation of the story.
Yeah, it's some really good stuff there, especially the pressure side of things. I don't think that's something people have spoke up, which is going to be there. That whilst we say 10 minutes ago, Andor supposedly the least viewed Disney Plus Star Wars series at the time of it launching, season 2 has now got 2.5 years of people telling them this is the best Star Wars show, this is the best Star Wars, this is on par with Empire Strikes Back, etc., etc. There's a lot of pressure on the season 2. And even think about earlier, I was on a walk listening to the season 1 soundtrack, and I just sort of sat there wondering for a couple of moments. This entire first season structure led up to the Rick's Road. It was the accumulation of 12 episodes and multiple story arcs. In season 2, we're going to be jumping a year at a time, and we're getting 4 outright story arcs of 3 episodes per story. And I am okay with that, and I'm excited by that. But as you see, it then puts pressure on, because how can your story arc in season 2, episodes 1 to 3, still crop up in 7 to 9, like perhaps season 1? We don't know the answer. Neither of us have seen it, and I guess we'll know the answer by sort of mid-May time. But it does make it harder. And at the same time, for season 2, that's dealing with the expectation that, hey, this is leading into Rogue One. Hey, let's put Ben Mendelsohn on the entirety of the marketing campaign, which I'm not complaining about either, by the way. I am delighted. And there are necessary story beats in place for this season compared to the first. When the show was announced, it was going to be 5 seasons. I can't remember if it was going to be 5 seasons of 12 or just they said 5 seasons, maybe 40 episodes, but Tony Gilroy spoke about it recently, and he basically said we were halfway through shooting season 1, and it basically not dawned on us, but they were like, we couldn't sustain this production for 5 seasons. Diego Luna would be like 50 by the time, and at that point he was playing himself when he was like 35, 40 or something. And he was kind of saying that we made the call to make it 2 seasons. And in turn, I like that, because that's the writer, that's the showrunner having the say, having the conversation that this is when I'm ending the series. Whether it ends up being too early, maybe that's a fair point. But at the same time, if the showrunner doesn't think there's 5 seasons worth of story, don't make 5 seasons for the sake of making 5 seasons. And one of the best TV shows in recent years, Succession, they announced like a few weeks before season 4 started releasing, hey, this is the final season, done. That's it. The story was 4 seasons. It was as long as it needed to be. And I hope Andor has that. I hope it doesn't feel rushed. And it kind of segues me into one of the, not a big talking point, but a talking point for the series that, as Tony Gilroy has joked about, has thrown all you podcasters are over the edge. Disney will be airing 3 episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday AM here in the UK. So for season 2 will air for 4 weeks, and it will be 3 episodes a time. What are your honest thoughts on that? On the not the eve of it, but as we're weeks away from this beginning.
I would be absolutely fine if it was a Friday or a Saturday. Absolutely fine. But it's a lot to put on for, and I think even if it was on the Tuesday evening, to sit and watch 3 episodes back to back before going to bed, and then it's a lot. So all I can say is that we're going to have to see. But I mean, at least for us here in the UK and as in other regions outside of America, it's going to be a really difficult thing to either try and watch before, get up early and watch them early, or try and avoid spoilers, watch at lunchtime, watch after work. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but based on the intensity and the actual story we're going to be getting, there's going to be a lot of spoiler content and a lot of things that are going to happen within each arc. and I really don't want to be spoiled for that. So I'm not very happy about it, but I think it'll also allow us to kind of enjoy a specific arc. I'm kind of sad to lose that cliffhangerness of it, and I'm sure after each arc, up until the final one, there will still be cliffhangers or kind of something that will have a nice segue into the next one. But yeah, I'm definitely leaning more towards I wish it was more week to week at least, because that gives us more time. But you know, it is what it is.
I'm the same vein. So I think at the time I was like, oh, this is great. Like, yeah, 3 episodes a week, a whole arc a week. I get a Star Wars film a week for 4 weeks. As the months, well, maybe a month's gone by since then, it was when they did the first trailer. It was just like, there's like a little asterisk in the description on StarWars.com. It was like, and the show will air at this. I certainly after rewatching season 1, and I kind of said before we went live, so apologies on the repeat, but when we're talking about how that first season did so well week to week, we were coming on here discussing it. Fine, people online were coming discussing it. I mentioned that leap to people say this goes from being a good show, a good Star Wars show, to being a great CV series, and it would. And I remember it more than anything was the No Way Out, One Way Out. Sorry, it was the middle arc finale, the Never More Than 12. That was like, oh my fucking God, they're going to plan a prison escape. What are they going to do next week? We need to see it. We've got to see it. We can't have a sport. We can't have this. The show worked so well because the week to week really built up those stories. It added, not via discourse, but it added a layer to the series, and that made you more excited. It made you want to watch it more. You had great Star Wars channels that would do their Easter egg discussions. You had people doing theories, and it was all positive in the aspect that it wasn't the usual, oh, this is crap, come back next week. It was everyone like, whoa, like this show, what could happen? And I like this new character. And oh my God, is that Andy Serkis in Star Wars not playing Snoke? In all these amazing little moments. So I'm somewhat nervous about season 2, just on the basis that I think one of the Andor's biggest allies was the fact it was across. Well, they did episodes 1 to 3 on the same day, and then it was weekly from that point from memory, which is fine. But rewatching season 1 at the weekend, as great as it was as binge, I know what's happening, and it was like, yeah, this is quality, and I'm saying that for 12 episodes. But I did get to the Never More Than 12. It went from waiting 1 week to waiting 1 second to skip to next chapter and start next episode. So I hope it's not lost. I believe the show was written in a way that this was not known to Tony Gilroy, that they'd be dropping 3 at a time. At the end of the day, I do believe he writes them a story arc. So we knew from Andor season 2 that it would go forward a year for each story arc. So we're going to, like, I guess episode 1 to 3 is going to be 4 BBY. It will keep doing the countdown. Whether it means we only get Krennic for 3 episodes, or maybe he'll be an overarching villain across 6 or 9. There's going to be a lot of time, and I feel that in the writing side of things, to sort of ease some concerns, because this has been written in this way, Tony Gore is writing this with this in mind, that I'm doing 1 year gaps. So, you know, one thing that's going to happen, Mon Mothma's hair is going to change. Like, let's not joke, but that's happening. Unfortunately, she's going to get the horrible pixie cut. But
you know,
that's one of them things that it'd be weird if it happened week to week. But if you're jumping forward a year, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just such an awful example for me to pick. But then it's like, let's say they kill off, I don't know, Dedra Meero, right, in episode 6. If Krennic rocks up in episode 7 of Death Star, you can't, like, yeah, I get this if we're still following the Empire, the Rebels are growing, blah, blah, blah. So it's not me criticizing it too much, but for the season 1 comparison, it makes it a bit more worrying as someone that produces YouTube videos, particularly Star Wars, who loves the spoilers discussions, who's doing this now adjacent to the other show I'm looking forward to, The Last of Us. It makes it very difficult to schedule in. And at this point in time, I'm not telling you when we're doing our live streams. I think, if I'm being totally transparent with any viewers, there's a good chance that our spoiler discussions will be the day after the episodes air in the UK. So we're looking at a Thursday, which gives any host, any people that we choose to get on as guests in the UK, at least a day to watch them. So there'll be more details on that. But yeah, that's it's a big part of what's going to happen. Like, it's going to be done by like mid-May, which is not May the 14th. I think the last 3 episodes there. I've booked that off work, by the way.
Oh, really?
I know May 21st when Mission Impossible comes up, so I was like, okay, thank God Andor's not on when Mission Impossible. I'll be at the cinema at IMAX with my family. But for the season finale throughout, I was like, yeah, I can get them off. I don't mind it for a random Wednesday in May. That's good with me. But I guess we're 30 minutes in. Let's it's kind of been like we are doing predictions, but I guess it's been a good opening 30. We're not doing it like bingo. We're not calling out a name saying fate. When Game of Thrones happens, I don't know if did you ever watch it week to week, or were you more of a binger? Is it?
I watched it week to week from season 6 onwards.
Okay.
So I had some time with it on that level.
Do you remember how every week the conversation like who's going to die and when?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
we're not doing that for Andor. But what I've kind of got, I don't have a plan as such. I've kind of posed these predictions as 3 questions. What do we know will happen? What do we want to see? What do we think will happen? And what do we need to see? Rogue One. That's a terrible schedule. I shouldn't have read it that way. But I guess I want to jump to you first. It's an open floor. I'm not chucking names at you saying what's happening, what's going on. Maybe we'll talk about a few core characters like Luthen, Mon, Andor, obviously. But I guess let's go easy. What do you want to see in season 2? That's the most important question for me as a fan of Star Wars.
I mean, what do I want to see? I mean, that's really interesting because I think there's a lot of things, there's a lot of directions where I would want them to kind of take some of the story arcs and individual storylines. However, I guess for me and anyone who watched any of the first season ones knows that like Mon Mothma is like my queen. I'm totally behind her, and I love the scenes on Coruscant and kind of the position that she's in trying to make sure that the Rebel Alliance is funded and kept secret, whilst also maintaining her position as senator. So, for me, one of the things that I want to see is kind of, and it's awful because I don't want to see it as well because I know it's going to mean more danger for her. But I kind of am waiting for when not the facade will slip, but just when she becomes like public enemy. That's, I want to see that because I know what she's going to do in her position within the Alliance. She's, rather than going to be all cloak and dagger, she will be kind of there as one of the leaders of it. So for me, I'm really excited to see that shift. How that's going to go down and what that's going to mean for the people around her is another thing. But I think that's something that I really want to see. I guess I also want to see other kind of more, uprisings. We had obviously the finale of season 1, which was a massive set piece. Was really intense, but really showcased, people fighting back against the Empire, and I want to see more of that. Obviously, and I don't know if you'll want to mention it after, there is one very specific storyline that looks like it's going to be happening in this season. And if please go ahead and do that, but I think that's obviously going to be the core one, but I would love to see in each arc more uprisings or kind of people fighting back, kind of like really showcasing that the rebels and just kind of the idea of fighting back is growing throughout the galaxy. So those are a couple of things that I really want to see.
I'm glad you brought this up because it's a great little conversation to segue. So I'm going to say it: the Gorman massacre has been. It sounds really horrible saying it's been officially confirmed. Rewatching season 1, Mon Mothma actually brings up it begins as like trade routes being blocked, and she's kicking off her husband like, you invite the people over that are now doing this in Parliament or etc. So actually, it's been in the pipeline since season 1. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I know the Star Wars EU. My opinion on the Star Wars EU is very controversial. I think most of it's utter tosh, and the few good things people talk about and the things people continue to talk about. And I'm more than fine with the Disney resetting the canon, which I would do if I just bought Star Wars. As much as I love Timothy Zahn's Thrawn, who has made his way to live action and books, you're buying an $8 billion asset. you kind of that creative freedom that some fans from the 90s didn't just dictate how you're going to make your franchise, but borrow from it, sure. Take things, improve on them, sure. Ignore terrible ones, yes. Don't have a moon fall on Chewbacca to kill him or something outrageous. The Gorman Massacre is one I've learned of in recent months, and it's essentially what birthed the rebellion officially. I don't want to do spoilers. I don't actually think this would happen, but if it does, then I'm not sorry. But Tarkin lands a Star Destroyer on thousands of peaceful protesters, which is kind of like the most sadistic, insane. This isn't like he landed a ship on a couple of people. This is like he landed a Star Destroyer on protesters, peaceful protesters. And we haven't spoke about this yet. Thank God we're not getting Star Wars The Stock Exchange series featuring Watto. But given how current politics is going, the timing of Andor Season 2 is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Because, of course, it was written and filmed before elections took place, multiple elections in multiple countries. I'm not citing one there. I'm citing multiple countries. And I think there's going to be some really interesting stuff that people see in this that may compare to current horror events, even outside of politics, war zones, countries we all know at which. I think this massacre sequence, based off what Tony Gilroy has said, like Rick's Road, Il Ferrex in season 1, he basically said we built this tremendous set. This maybe, I don't really know if it's a city or what they've done, or if they're doing like Andor season 1 where it's like a street, but he's kind of said that so much of the budget went on this, we wanted to focus on this area to encompass that budget, which is great because that shows you've got an actual showrunner being responsible with their budget, not just saying great CGI it in with the green screen after. He's obviously using his budget to the necessary means, which means we're going to get a focus on the writing in this area. So I would like to see it summed up. As you kind of said too, like what we need to see what leads to Mon Mothma leaving that parliament and going into the rebels, because with season 1 you could say, okay, certain things need to happen. Andor's going to become a rebel. Mon Mothma's going to become the leader of the rebels. Luthen, we don't know what's going to happen to him, but you could sort of predict little things here and there. Whereas season 2, the conversation now becomes Endgame. Andor has to be there. Mon Mothma has to go there because she's there. Luthen probably dies. Saw Gerrera, who we know we're going to get, he has to be there for Rogue One. So there's going to be some really interesting things that maybe we don't have to see all of that happen, but we know in the conscious writing and conscious as viewers that there is an endgame destination for men. Melshi, one of my favorite surprises of season 1. Add so much depth. He was a cool character in Rogue One. It's like, yeah, it's like Cassian's like friend. He's like a general type. He's leading the front line. He unfortunately got killed. And then Andor season 1's like prison survivors together. They got out together. And then like, oh, like I would like to see their reunion if they have one, because there's some really interesting stuff. Again, and Tony Gore has spoke about it, saying that when you finish Andor season 2, that will change Rogue One, which I love. I love it when shows and films do things like that. And I haven't watched Rogue One since that Empire screening I mentioned. I've not watched Rogue One since before Andor season 1. And I've really resisted watching Rogue One. And I think it'll be worth it. We'll do a video on not just me watching it, because that's ridiculous, but the longest sequel of YouTube videos in history is watching Rogue One pre-Andor and watching Rogue One post-Andor. That's happening on the channel. That's on the playlist if anyone's curious. But yeah, sorry to have elongated that, but I'm the same as you. It's exciting to know what possibilities are at. And something in regards to, if I look at what do I want to see, and I think this is a big one, is there's a lot of fan service this show could want to do. And I don't think Tony Gilroy is the type of fan service, if I'm honest. But if I were to beg that question, and it's an unnecessary one, do you think we'd see Andy Serkis again or not? Fate unknown.
I would love to not see him, just because I think his role was, to me, is such an enclosed thing. I'm very happy for him to have been part of that. In fact, since I've a really tragic yet funny ending where he could have survived. We don't know that, but I would love to just keep that open and then just not actually have a definitive answer. Is my
Like
thing.
Inception.
I wouldn't be mad if he appeared. I'd just be like, was this necessary? Do we need to go into this time to have him included here? I don't think so, but you want him in it, don't you?
I love the fact that when that the can't swim thing is actually a kill. Like it's as you say, it's funny, but it's terrible that it's such an incredible 3 episodes to then have the sourest of high notes that he gets his freedom and it's the one thing he can't do, he can't swim. And the episode doesn't just follow that great. In the next episode, you've got like Melshi and Andor. Like, we don't know how many people survived, but people need to find out what happened. And I like that because it implies many could have survived that we don't see. And I like the fact they never showed it. I'm fine if they never show it. It's just the amusement of like, I'm not saying bring him on like it's, you know, Barbossa into Pirates of the Caribbean 2, but just Andy Serkis just popped up. Like, I think because he spoke about it publicly, like he really loved the role. He loved shooting it, and he's kind of definitive as to like, I'm sure I'm alive. Like, I want to be alive. But again, I don't think Tony Gilroy is. And this isn't me criticizing Mandalorian, right? Like, if it was a Mandalorian, sure thing, his life. We'll get him in an animated series or something. We'll get him in another episode, fine. But we'll get the book of Kino Loy. And
sure.
It's fine if he doesn't appear. But I changed what I was going to say because I thought it'd be a bit deeper if I did it. Something I want to see, and this is going to be a killer. This is, I think, one of the best written Star Wars characters, actually, is Luthen, played by Stellan Skarsgård. This does sound like a cutthroat, like a thing I was saying about Game, which I don't want to do, but he's so incredible in that first series. He's one of the smartest characters. He's playing the Game of Thrones, I guess we could say, to the nth degree. 2 incredible sequences of Saw Gerrera watching back. You know, we spoke about how good the writing is. Isolated scenes, Andor is phenomenal. And then you look at it in the context of a series, and it increases that to not just great conversations and great writing, but unbelievable character development. I personally think Luthen has to die. And it's not me being Judge Droid or Executioner. And I'm not saying because he's not in Rogue One. He is almost like, if you look at how that first season went, Mon Mothma is like financing the rebellion, but Luthen's the one who's wanting to do something about it. He is the one who's, you know, Odani, that was him, that was his idea, his plan, and it was him tying up loose ends. The Mon Mothma financing that she didn't think he'd go that far to do something such as that. Great scenes of Saw Gerrera where he's basically Saw, we need to stop working alone, and we need to start coming together if we actually want to make a change. And he's almost the father of the rebellion. And I think that being said, he has to die to show the might of the Empire. And for them, you go back to episode 4 and Rogue One, where it's like the first victory of the rebellion was Rogue One. I'm not saying do a big sequence like Rebel Season 3 and make sure they lose to show that, but the first series was more than capable at killing off characters, and it chose to do so at times. And I think he would be like, knowing Mon Mothma and Andor are both going to live, Luthen feels like someone you don't see getting out.
No, I agree. I mean, if we wanted to talk about characters and their potential status,
I'm fine to do it if I'm honest. If that's what people want to do, I'm more.
Well, I mean, so the ones that we know for sure. So Mon Mothma, Andor, obviously, Krennic.
Yeah.
That's
why I was very excited. Krennic. Yeah, I'm very excited. Saw
and K2SO, who's yet to appear. They're making it through. I look at I wrote down the names of the other characters, and I'm just like, could die. Like, the majority of the cast, I honestly believe could die. And I think there will absolutely be losses on both sides. How that's done, I'm not too sure. But it feels like those people that are going to make it through to Rogue One, all of them are going to lose something. So Andor's already lost, but he's going to lose more. Mon Mothma's going to lose people. Krennic, I don't see him being best buds with with Mira or Cyril. But I can't imagine either of those characters making it through.
Yeah, I see.
And for me, it's going to just be interesting at which point, because with Luthen, for example, I could really see quite like an early, like that first arc, he could be like an early out, and it's like, whoa, this has gotten intense. What's his assistant? Claire. Yeah, that I can imagine that she maybe makes it through further than him, that he goes and then she's got to try and continue, and then something happens to her. I've got all these things in my head. Then there's, my Mothma's cousin and her partner, and I don't see them making it out either. It's one of those things where it's not exciting because I don't want to see these characters that I enjoy die, but at the same time, if it's going to aid a thing, and they're not going to go as far as with Rogue One, where I think they'll get rid of all of them. However, I think there'll be, well, I would like actually if there was some form of mirror of each one of them has a role to play. By them doing this, they die at this point. However, they've done something that leads to this. And hopefully that will then obviously connect the characters a bit more, connect the story, and then connect those 4 arcs that we are getting. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for, a story sense.
I'm with you.
Personally, I don't want to see these characters die, but if it's done in a way that's actually going to be really impactful and worth it for the story, then yeah.
I'm glad you brought the arcs, because it's something that, again, going back to that, we're dropping 4 arcs, but we're going to do 4 years in a row. It becomes how do you say it? I don't just want 4 random films that aren't connected, as you said, right? If that character has an impact onto the next story arc, even if it's a year later, if there's an impact and a bridge and a connection, I'm great. And I think certainly I'd be very surprised if the last 2 arcs aren't very heavily Death Star Krennic inspired, like based off the marketing campaign, which we could all be wrong about. Like, if the last episode, the last scene is Andor, like, right, I'm off to this planet because I've got a report from a friend with a bad leg, and we get Daniel Mays back for like 1 scene. I'm fine with that, but I'm in the same vein as you, that the characters who aren't in Rogue One, there's like an asterisk by that. Kind of reminds me of like in X-Men Days of Future Past, like when loads of the original X-Men from first class didn't come back.
Yes.
But then it was like, oh yeah, they all died off screen in between films. Like, whereas this could be like, and I wouldn't even go so far as to say this because this is way too in the speculation, but Rebels ends with this lovely little epilogue of like, this is what all the characters for the rest of their lives. I don't need that for Andor.
It would never.
If there were 1 or 2 survivors, I wouldn't mind like I don't want to say like a credit scene, but they did do a credit scene in season 1, that being said, with a lovely little Death Star thing. But even if it's a character somewhere finding out after the event of Rogue One, like Rogue One died, like, or we lost Cassian or something, like, I'm not saying I need finality, I don't need an epilogue, but if there was a way for it to be written that worked in the context of 12 episodes in the story, for there to be a character telling the story of Andor or the aftermath or something, I'm great with that. I know he can't become Ash and be put in a brick because he's already Ash on another planet. But I'm really curious and excited to see what they do with that. And I think credit to the series and those trailers. We spoke about the Gorman massacre. We spoke about, the Death Star is going to be in Krennic. We didn't know any of the story arcs. We don't know what's going to happen. They haven't advertised the arcs in the context of here's a story. The trailers have been montages of clips, which is great. And I love it when a trailer does that because it gives nothing away whilst revealing certain moments and things. And I think the Gorman massacre, if I'm totally honest, I'm the tiniest bit disappointed they told everyone, because if they were building up to a massacre, it would be one of the most brutal episodes of TV. But now we're going to expect it. We're going to know it's going to come at some point, whereas before it might not have had that effect. And I think that's the beauty of season 1 is you look back at those prison arcs. Now, there were a couple of prison outfits in the trailers, but Andy Serkis wasn't.
No.
So I'm not saying, surprise me, cameo here, there, everywhere. I always would joke about, I'd love to see Krennic back, but they've made him a focal point of marketing, which is also great, because I'm not going to come on every week saying I hope to see Krennic in a few weeks. A question I have to you, which is an interesting one. I think the answer may be no, Do you think we'll see a Tarkin?
Well, I was going to bring up this. I would love to see two characters.
Okay.
I would kind of like to see Tarkin, and I would like to see Bale,
Oh, yes.
because I just think one, it would help link to Rogue One a little bit more. I think at least in that last arc. So I think it'd be more impactful if I know you said about kind of maybe like how it could potentially end. All we know is that from the people that are in the show and in Rogue One, the only person that survives is Mon Mothma that we've got, who's in Andor, that we know for sure last past Rogue One into New Hope. It would be great if there was kind of like a post Battle of Yavin thing where she's kind of like not only remembering the events of just happened for the Battle of Yavin, but also Rogue One and all the years that have led up to like an actual post Death Star. We need to keep going or something, and I think that would be really impactful. And I think by having people like Bail Organa and Tarkin, and just it helps to really make that a bit more full circle. I guess I don't want it to cause a lot of aggro by having Tarkin in. I think they did do a good job of it in Rogue One, and I wouldn't mind if it was for a very limited thing. If we've got other Imperial characters there, including Krennic, I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it'd be different if it was Vader. I don't think we don't need to see Vader is my thing. I know there's a scene in our clip in the trailer where it looks like Mira's getting force chokes, which I don't
think it is.
I don't think it's that. So I think for me, Tarkin would be a nice thing there. I don't think we need to see the Emperor. I don't need it to be that. But in terms of what's going to work for this story, it's all leads to the Death Star, and Tarkin and the Death Star go hand in hand, or finger by finger. So that's kind of how I would like that. And if Tarkin was included, that'd be great to me.
I'm with you. I like that. And as you said, like the Empire side of things, some of the best scenes of season 1 are at the ISB, and it's just them doing their job. You've got oh dear me, I've forgotten his name. Incredible stage actor.
I know who you mean, the one who was in Game of Thrones.
Yes, that's going to bring on now. I put him on a Harry Potter casting to play Ollivander because he'd be great. But he's one of my favorite characters because, he's a terrible evil guy. He's a boss, but some of those great speeches about like how Dedra Meero saying, we needed that rebel alive. Like he's one of the things. He's like, we're showing the full despair of their might. We've had someone take something from us. We're going to eradicate a rebel cell. No prisoners. But even those, and it was like Game of Thrones. Like they've got the two staff trying to climb the ladder of one another, and he's like, speak, elaborate, like say your point, and then I'll give mine. It was Qyburn he played in Game of Thrones from memory. It's gonna really annoy me now because his name's really memorable. But
Anton Lesser.
Anton Lesser, that's it. Thank you. As you said, the road leads Tarkin. It was the Death Star. He's like the top of the pyramid, the Death Star Tarkin. Like Krennic's just under him. If we're going to get a lot of Krennic, it's almost like how like Vader was the cameo in Rogue One. Because you're dealing with Tarkin and Krennic the whole time. If you're dealing with Krennic, Tarkin's his boss above him. And you go into the Rogue One and their sort of rivalry is Tarkin was head of the Death Star, that then went to Krennic. Krennic fixed it, got it working, but then Tarkin, ousted him playing the political game.
Yeah.
And it would make sense in story if there's a Death Star that's being built that they're struggling with, and there's rebels rising, that at some point Tarkin could get involved. And even if you don't see him, even their name, like Admiral Yularen came up in season 1. No one, not like really cared, but if you didn't watch Clone Wars, you didn't miss anything by him being there. And I think if Tony Gilroy was to put Krennic in, I don't think he'd be put in for the sake of I wanted Tarkin in. It would be I needed this individual character in this role for the sequence. And you've just put one that absolutely would make sense too. Do we get Gale and Erso? Now, that's almost a caveat of the Tarkin question. If you've got Krennic, would you get Gale and Erso? Because he is intertwined with Krennic's story. He's the man responsible for essentially weaponizing that Death Star, that they needed him back. I'd go so far as say is that if we got Mads, I wouldn't be surprised because he does a lot of work. He does a lot of work on big productions as well as small dramas. I would caveat that by saying that I do not want to see anybody else from the Rogue One Rebel side of things, as in the core. The Riz Ahmed, I don't think would need, even though he's a pilot that escapes.
Well, he would be the only one actually from that Rogue One crew that I'd be like, okay, because he's sent by Galen, isn't he? Isn't that?
Yes, he is.
For me, right. Those two would be the only characters from there that I'd be like, you know what? I don't need to see Jyn because we follow her. It's her story in Rogue One, really.
We don't need Chirrut and Baze because they're
although we do see in the trailer, you know, obviously we're going to be where Saw is. I do think, you know, that the final arc, those final 3 episodes, could be a lot more interconnected with Rogue One than we really kind of could. Yeah,
I think they could be set literally like if every year is a year to Rogue One, right? If 1 to 3 is year 4, 4 to 6 is year 3. 6 to 9 is year 2.
Yeah.
9 to 12 is year 1 before, or will it just be 0 before? Like,
well, this is what I mean. Like, obviously there are arcs, but there could be some time between, you know, and we don't necessarily know. I don't think it's going to be as strict as it's exactly a year. It's exactly a year. It's exactly, you know, it's within this time frame. So. I do think it's possible, but I guess it depends what do they want to tell in the story. Is it we don't want, and I guess I don't want either, just, you know, ticking boxes for, you know, okay, we need to, we're going to go meticulously into detail about how it got to Rogue One. You know, there's got to be a good story there. I don't want the final 3 episodes to be like, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, you know, and that's just for the sake of it. If it means that some of our pre-established Andor characters are influencing the events that then enable that, then sure, and that makes sense. So yeah, I think that it goes back a bit to what do I want to see, and I'd kind of love to see some of that. But at the same time, if it's not going to work, and I know I feel like Tony Gilroy again wouldn't do it for the sake of it. It would have to be for a story purpose. Then yeah.
I've got one more that we've not spoke about, and forgive me, I've not seen this spoke about anywhere. So if I'm the first ever to claim it, I'm going to re-release this like after the show's aired. I've got one theory, and I don't tend to do theories. I think it's Forcent that always have the phrase like speculate respectfully or something like that. Like basically, don't overdo it, guys, because we know what Star Wars fans are like. We're going to get K2SO. We're clearly going to get his origin. Like we have to get his origin. Outrageous. Even when the show was first ever announced, it was assumed to be in season 1, but he wasn't. I have a theory, and I feel like Star Wars has somewhat done this before, but hasn't done it before. B2.
Oh, don't say it.
I think B2 is going to be programmed into K2. That's been my theory for a very long time. And that would change so much about the death in Rogue One. I could be wrong. And I kind of want to be wrong because I don't want to send a droid to his death. But it's something no one's really spoke about. If K2 is just a reprogrammed Imperial Pro droid, well, not Pro droid, sorry, like Imperial droid, fine. But if they were to put a persona in there of his other droids, I feel like Star Wars has done like the transmitting.
Well, Solo did it for the Millennium Falcon.
There we go. Thank you. I knew it'd been done, and that kind of made sense in a bit weirder in Solo because, you know,
I'm still not totally convinced by that. But
it would make more sense, like the droid memory going into a newer droid that it can physically. And I love B2. I just think because B2's been in the marketing still, and it was also a wonderful design from the droid builders as well. That the way it works on the tracks, it was really cool in season 1 how that worked. But no one's talking about K2, so that's my one theory. I'm willing to speculate on. Like, not me saying I can predict a million things, but if there was one that was going to wow me, it's that. without it again sound like a checklist thing. It's just something I've thought for a very long time, especially rewatching it last week. I'm like, there is a persona in B2, like when it's grieving, when Marva dies, it won't leave without Andor being back there. Like, it has a mind of his own, and if that were to go into a droid, that would be incredible. And then you could then develop that somewhat more with Alan Tudyk coming back, which is also really exciting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm in two minds. I think it would make K2's death a lot more impactful. At the same time, I see them as such two distinct personalities that I find it difficult to think of B2 as that droid. So
yeah,
I think it's a good theory. I'm not entirely sure. And I think at this point, I don't know whether B2 would stay with Bix, but then who the hell knows what will happen with Bix? And
I think should survive. I think if I were to look at anyone that's not in Rogue One, are they on a safe list? Just based off how bad it went for her in season 1.
Well, it was rough.
I think Bix, for me, I'd like to see survive. I think I could, whether you know how I mentioned, like, maybe there's like an epilogue thing or someone finding out. Someone like Bix, I think, could carry that weight of she finds out about what happened, and I could be completely wrong. She could go straight away and be killed, which might be further to him. And it's kind of exciting, and it is the Game of Thrones comparison that for Game of Thrones, character deaths would be used to enhance others. Maybe it made a villain more terrible. Maybe it made a hero take that extra character moment. But I feel like Andor has that because anyone off the Rogue One chessboard isn't necessarily safe as such. It makes doing a predictions video fun because it really is impossible, and it doesn't just definitively mean you need to die. Maybe Luthen is the only one I'm looking at saying you have to die in the show. I think if anyone survived, that I know that canon, it's written after, and I'm not doing the whole canon conversation, but when they look, one famous canon thing is like, if Mon Mothma was at the Rebel base at the start of Rogue One, why wasn't she there during the events of A New Hope? Obviously, the answer is real life, that she wasn't written as a character to Return of the Jedi. But they, in canon, made a thing like, Mon Mothma had to evacuate as soon as it basically after Rogue One. Mon Mothma evacuated because should the Rebel cell die, the rebellion would live on through Mon Mothma elsewhere. Fine. Pulling at strings, fine. But I think if someone like Luthen survived, I'd be like, no, he would have been in Rogue One. He would have been in the War Rooms. He would have been in all the original films. So I think he's the only one. If I'm sounding horrible, he has to categorically die in the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's the only people where I'm like sure a Luthen. Cyril, I think kind of needs to die.
Cyril or Dedra's going, aren't they? Like
one or both for sure, and then definitely Vel. So Mon Mothma's cousin. Yeah. I'm kind of thinking I can see that absolutely happening. Everyone else kind of has a bit more of a question mark over them at this stage. It's one of those things where you can literally talk about it for ages, couldn't you? But we don't have any definitive proof of anything or how it's going to go down. Obviously, we've had a couple of trailers and we've seen clips, but there's nothing that so strongly showcases the way that it's going to go, and that is what it should be, And I'm glad that we don't have leaks, or at least I don't think there's any leaks.
Yeah. I've not seen any leaks. All I can tell you, and this is through knowing people within doing this, is that the junket takes place on Thursday, the 10th of April. The UK premiere, they're calling it the sneak peek, takes place on Thursday, the 10th of April in the UK. I do not know when the review embargo lifts, but I know that individual members of the press have had access to the whole season. So I haven't seen leaks, but I know that certain individuals in the world have seen it. Obviously, very strict NDAs, and if it's press, it's not going to be like leakers, like online types. It's going to be respectful. So at this point in time, for all I know, the review embargo is tomorrow. I hope it's not. But that was, I think, kind of doing behind the scenes. This video has been great for over an hour. this video was not in existence 2 days ago. It was very much a, I've had this idea. It's not planned. Is anyone game? And thank God, no, not too disrespectfully, Phil. If there was 3 of us, oh my, we'd be going like 2 hours because we're 2 people having these back and forths about what could happen. You bring in a third person, let's say they've got amazing theories, ideas, or are correcting us, then it really elongates it. So,
and Phil would have some great theories, to be
Phil
fair.
knows the EU, man. That he already knew about the Gore Massacre. He would have probably told me like what landing gear landed where, on whom too. So we will obviously have Phil on for some of the spoiler discussions. And this is the kind of sad thing is there's only 4 spoiler discussions to do because they're airing the episodes 3 times a week, and it does make it tricky to organise. I'll keep saying that, but I appreciate anyone that does like to jump on. But also, it's a shame because on the early days of doing Star Wars Disney on the channel, we would be able to work with loads of different Star Wars podcasters, YouTubers. Because Mando was like 8 episodes. It's like great. Who can we get on for? Like, who can we get on each week? And Andor's a bit different because it's like who can watch 3 episodes within 2 days and be free and is up for it, which is a whole different ball game. So, without sound like I'm teeing off for an outro, do you want to bring up anything else? Because I don't have like a hit list of predictions. I just wanted to see where the conversation went, and it's went in a pretty great direction so far. But I've not missed anything at my end that I wanted to not talk about.
No, I mean, I guess the only thing that I really want is just see, we had some diverse locations in the first season, and I hope that stays true. I mean, of course, I want to see Coruscant. The only place that I want to see from season 1 back it is Coruscant, and then obviously Yavin too. But I would love to see some other places. Chandrilla, I've been wanting to see for a long time in live action. So I would love to see Chandrilla. But yeah, any other new locations, or just see more of the actual Rebel Alliance itself, like the beginnings of their fleets, things like that. Just kind of this is how it really came together. Because I feel like this is a really good position to kind of do that. So yeah, see some more of those kind of inner workings of the Alliance, and yeah, I guess if there's room for any kind of new characters as well, new interesting characters, probably those that they'll make us like and then kill within the same arc. That's definitely going to happen. But yeah,
Andy Serkis, not as an Andy Serkis, as in we might have like, hey, like Benedict Cumberbatch just rocked up in Andor for like 1 episode. Because it's really, the more you think about the Andy Serkis episode, it's actually insane that he filmed 3 episodes. It didn't leak. No one knew until the day. They didn't put him in trailers. They didn't give him a poster. And I'm not saying it needs to happen, but you just think of like elite British actors. Phil spoke about he'd love to see Ray Fiennes in Star Wars one day. Probably not going to happen in this, but Ray Fiennes rocked up as an Imperial for like 3 episodes. You'd be like, hell yeah, dude! Like, bang on. Or I don't know, Stephen Graham finally turns up in a Star Wars series. You'd be like, great,
finally.
And this is it. And if I'd love to have some surprises that no one has the faintest idea about as a surprise. And I think that was the beauty of Andor. Andor season 1 was a surprise. The entire season was. No one thought it'd be as good as it was. If you'd have said to me, was it September 2022 that aired? You're about to watch the first 2 episodes of an Emmy-nominated drama series. Not Emmy-nominated, like, he got nominated for like best costume, like best drama nominee. There are 5, I think. I think they only ever do 5 nominations. Yeah. And you're about to watch them. I'd have been like, Andor? Like, not disrespectfully, I like just Andor? Okay. And credit where credit's due. Tony Gilroy has absolutely nailed it. But sorry to sort of cut you off to talk about Benedict Cumberbatch and other fantasies. But
no. I mean that is it really. I think it's. I want to be surprised by this series. It's not going to be in the same way that the first season did, but I just hope it remains that consistent, strongly written, high drama, intense, entertaining show that we really fell in love with. Because in the end of the day, I think we want to be entertained. We want it to be a success. And I think that does wrap it up for me. I think.
Lovely. And that is me as well. So that's going to wrap up this Andor prediction / preview video. Still don't know what we're going to call it, but it will go up on the channel. And as we said, we will be doing more Andor videos. After Andor's finished, there's going to be a Rogue One video, which I've already discussed. That I'm very excited for. There will be a ranking of the Andor story arcs across both season 1 and 2, which is something a little bit different. Time of this video going up, we have also done a Last of Us season 1, but when this video is going up, we will be on our Last of Us season 2 coverage. So we've got spoiler discussions every Monday. For Andor, the plan is TBC. Maybe on the Wednesday, I do a quick solo video, just giving my immediate reaction. Not, I hate the word reaction, but my immediate thoughts on the episodes. But the key for me is the spoiler discussion, bringing on people like Sam, other fans, guests, people you know on the channel. Dave is no longer with us on YouTube. He is going to be in the comments, he said. He's a big part of this channel and always has been. And we're delighted that he's going to be commenting along as well. I'm allowed to say that much. So still got some of the core Star Wars group. We're still going strong. There will be new releases too, but we're heading into an insane month for TV. So that is going to do it for me. Sam, thank you so much for jumping on. People watching at home, comment your thoughts for Andor Season 2, what you're looking forward to, what you're not, your thoughts on Season 1, if you've rewatched it. I really recommend if you get the chance to rewatch it before Season 2 starts airing in the next couple of weeks. And if you're going to find us, follow us to find out what the videos we're working on. You can get us on our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky, all of which is in that link tree, which is in the description below. But that is going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, Sam for joining. It's lovely to get you back talking Star Wars. And we'll see you all on the next one. Take care.